For the
seminar thing.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to the Eyewitness Fellows Weekend. This is the first of two conversations that we will be having. I'm joined by this august panel of photographers. Why don't you introduce yourself, since we don't...
My name is C.W. Griffin. Everybody always asks me what the C.W. is, so I may as well let you know. It's Clarence Walker.
A secret revealed.
I'm Carol Guzzi.
Okay.
I'm Michael Robinson Chavez.
Okay.
I'm Maria Daniel Balcázar.
Okay. And I'm Leonard Pitts, recovering columnist for the Miami Herald. I have been asked to pose each of you two questions based on samples of your work. And it's going to be the same question for both of you, for all of you rather. And CW, we will start with you. How does this image, and I believe we should be looking at the image, how does this image reflect the struggle for democracy in South America and the Caribbean?
Okay. Now I don't see the image, so I'm not quite sure, but I think I. Oh,
there's
okay.
the image.
Oh, already. This image was shot in Le Cai in Haiti, and it was during a time where President Aristide at that time was in exile. So there was a lot of tension in the region, and a lot of dealing with a faction that was at that time called the Makut. And I actually got out of the city to relax and went down to Le Cai and shot this image. Well, after the image, after I got back and the image became public, I was approached by someone who asked me to literally change the meaning of the image. They said, you know, this would be a great image if she was running from the Makut. And I'm going, no. She's not running from the Makut. Her mother is calling her to dinner. She is going home to eat. It'd be a really great image if she was running from the Makut. And I'm like, no. I said, I learned a long time ago, if it's a good image, it's a good image. You know? And lying about the image is something that probably in the future would come back to haunt me, not you. So I am telling the truth, and that's how the image ran. But it was a lesson for me as a journalist to make sure that you are truthful about what you present, and not to be swayed just because the political environment, you know, would dictate that, oh wow, it's a better picture. So it was a early lesson for me,
right.
And one that stayed with me my entire career.
And it's interesting that even in the midst of upheaval, mom is still calling daughter to dinner. That kind of that kind of adds something there to it itself. Carol, same question. How does this image reflect the struggle for freedom and democracy in South America and in the Caribbean?
I know the image. It was from the military intervention, the U.S. military intervention in Haiti in '94, and it was to restore President Aristide, who was actually somewhat fairly elected in a country that had a history of pretty much horrors during their democratic process, massacres at the polls and violence, and there was so much injustice and corruption and turmoil and anarchy in Haiti over the decades that I was covering it, that this was actually a pro-democracy march that someone had thrown a grenade, and there were many victims in the streets, and we threw a lot of people in our car and went to continue covering it, and they thought this was the man that had thrown the grenade. So vigilante justice is huge in Haiti, and the Marines stepped in to protect the man from basically being torn apart by the crowd who had been terrorized in so many ways, and there was no justice system really, so it became the justice of the streets, which can be very, very brutal. And shooting started, and I dropped down, and that's when I took the picture. But it was probably the one time that I had covered Haiti where after they got control, there was a tangible whisper of hope that I felt in a country that was so troubled for so long. I fell in love with the Haitian people. There's such a juxtaposition in Haiti of this beautiful spirit and radiant smile that I swear is a light in the darkness. There's nothing like a Haitian smile, but the juxtaposition of this brutality of the streets and all the injustice and all the struggles that they've had over the years has been, it's been very difficult. And of course, today, if Haiti could get worse, it's the worst it's ever been. Right. And I don't know what the answer is in Haiti, but it's, I don't know, breaks my heart even just to talk about it still.
Every time I see that photo, I'm struck by the aloneness of that man. Sort of, there's almost a, I don't want to trivialize it, almost a Gary Cooper High Noon quality of him standing off the oncoming threat. It's just always hit me like a very powerful image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it became a bit iconic of that time in Haiti.
Yeah. Yeah. Michael, same question. How does this image reflect the struggle for democracy and freedom in South America and the Caribbean?
I believe it's a photo that was taken outside a polling place. This is a photograph that I made in Iquitos in Peru. It's the Peruvian Amazon. And I had been spending a lot of time just wandering around Peru making photographs. It wasn't an assignment or anything like that. And I happened by this polling place, and this boy has fashioned a hat out of the ballots, and it says, "Tu voto es secreto," your vote is secret. And it just sort of, for me, personified where Peru was at electorally. This was when Fujimori and Toledo were locked in electoral battle. Fujimori, this is 2000, so it's kind of the end of Alberto Fujimori's reign, where he was elected in an upset over Vargas Llosa many years prior, and then he slowly became more and more autocratic. And the Peruvian population at first tolerated this because Sendero Luminoso, which was a vicious uprising that started in the mountains and eventually came down to Lima, had terrorized the nation for many, many years, and Fujimori was widely credited, although the credit wasn't all his, but that's a different story, of having disbanded them, having beaten them, as it were. And so they gave him a lot of latitude, and he abused that latitude. And then Toledo ran. It was deemed a fraud. Toledo stepped down and said, "I'm not going to run in the runoff." And then Fujimori soon after was exiled, and he fled to Japan. And then Toledo became president, and he went down on corruption charges, and now they are both neighbors in a prison in Lima. They're hanging out together at last, in jail, along with a third president. Peru has this incredible track record of imprisoning their former presidents. And for me, it was just kind of like this peak moment in Peruvian politics where the population had tired of Fujimori's belligerence and his overextension of power, and they did something about it, and they did vote for Toledo to come into office, and finally the age of Fujimori was done. So for me, that photograph kind of personified it, and that here's this, the future generation, this young boy wearing this hat made of the ballot boxes, kind of making a mockery of it, because at the time it was a mockery.
Yeah. Do you think he seems too young for that to have been his intent, but probably just the
Well, but most likely, but man, he fashioned that hat perfectly, because Tu voto es secreto is like right there on the front, it's like he got it through mail order or something, but they grow up pretty fast, there, and they understand, and who knows what they're hearing from their parents and other peers and things, but there were fraud signs spray painted on many buildings, and it was kind of the prevalent story of the day throughout Peru, of that election especially.
It's just kind of sad to think that a child of that age would have to...
With that kind of cynicism?
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Let's hope they've grown out of it.
No, you don't grow out of cynicism.
I was going to say you grow into it.
Yeah, you grow into it, so, yeah. Okay. Maria, we're going to take a look at one of your images and ask the same question. How does this reflect the struggle for democracy and freedom in South America and in the Caribbean?
Well, I chose to show this picture. This is in Brazil, and I specialized in the African diaspora in Brazil. So for me, I chose this picture because if you see, it's a Catholic festivity in a cemetery. And then you will hear the African drums there. So I went there and said, what's going on? And then I see that main picture. He represents, or she represents, African goddess called Nana Buruki. And what really impresses me about the African diaspora in Brazil is how did they transcend? How did they resist so much terrible things, and they still have deep roots. Like you see, this was in 1917, but I've been not too long ago, and they still have this spiritual strength to show their roots, to believe in this African gods, and it's a Catholic festivity. So you say, how are these people living and with respect? How does it happen? Even though I know there's new groups of people that are chasing and burning their temples, but they still are. And you see Nana Buruki, and she or he embodies a woman and a man at the same time, and you find that in Africa gods. There's another one called right now I don't have the name, but 6 months he's a she, and then she's a she. So 6 months she changes sexes, which is amazing, and people. In their religions, especially Umbanda, it's accepted, and I think acceptance nowadays is so important to respect the other one. And well, that's why I chose those values of democracy can be seen in my point of view in that image.
And they're holding on to their gods against such.
Yes, and Nana Buruki, what she does, and why is she in the cemetery? It's because the function they have in their community is to guide people that are in need. And sometimes they believe in reincarnation, and if you see the people that are going towards there, they're very worried because in the case of one of the persons there, I heard that her father had passed away, and he had done some not very good things in life, and she was worried that he would not live in peace and reincarnate peacefully. So all those elements for me, I think I see democracy's value, and I think it's important to remember that and show those images as what we are trying right now, all of us, my colleagues here, to show stories that matter in our societies.
Okay. Let me move on to our second question, which is, we talked about the struggle for democracy and freedom in South America and the Caribbean. How does that struggle land on our shores, on the shores of the United States of America? And we'll begin with CW.
Well, I mean, I look at it in terms of, I think all we have to do is just take a quick look at the politics that are in play here now. And the influences that come from other parts of the world that could potentially become part of our politics. And it becomes an issue of choice. We can look around the world and we can look at the politics of dictatorships. We can look at the politics of democratic countries. And at this point, I think we have to weigh them and we have to make a choice. So if we want democracy basically to survive, it's really going to come down to what choices we make. in November.
And not making a choice is a choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Same question. I'm sorry. I'll rephrase the
No.
question again. How does that struggle for freedom and for democracy and freedom that you photographed in other places? How does that land on our shores in the United States?
Well, literally about to land on our shores probably is another boat lift of Haitians. If I just want to talk about Haiti, it's, historically been desperate people fleeing the most horrendous situations, and it couldn't be worse in Haiti now than ever. And as a journalist, I'm supposed to say I'm objective. I don't believe we're objective beings. We're subjective beings. We're going to have our personal feelings. I think we're trained to be fair and accurate and authentic in reporting, but I feel very strongly about certain things, and I've seen so much suffering in Haiti that to witness over and over and over again boatloads of desperate people shipped back, repatriated back to a nightmarish hell and in crisis, is cruel and inhumane. And to me, if democracy is not, the foundation of democracy in my mind should be our humanity, our shared humanity. And I'm really afraid of what's going to happen now to a lot of people with nowhere to turn. And I think we as Americans have to decide who we are and what we believe in, not only as a democracy, but as just human beings.
It's interesting, the two of you come from different directions to almost the exact same thing, which is that we're at a decision point and an inflection point. Michael, I'll ask you, how does this struggle for freedom and democracy that you chronicled in other places, how does it land on United States shores?
God, in many forms, that's for sure. I think right now there's just this combination of things that are happening right now that are putting incredible pressure on democracy as its existence. There is the massive wave of immigration and the intolerance on behalf of so many people, especially, it's not just here, but in Europe and different places where there's this strong anti-immigrant sentiment, despite all the contributions and the founding of the nation and all these things. And it's a really tough dilemma, and it's putting a lot of pressure on what does democracy mean. Cult of personality also has taken on this, not since the 1940s, 1930s have we seen cult of personality take on this kind of power. I mean, when you look at the 2016 election and what the Republicans are fielding, that is about personality. I mean, there's very little way, especially in 2020 and now in this cycle, there's very little talk of policy or ideas or what it's going to mean. It's all about who the person is and what they're, what I'm going to do when I get into the White House, the vindictiveness. And so all these elements are kind of coming together and putting all this pressure on democracy. And furthermore, the U.S., for better or worse, has always been seen as sort of this is the beacon that was sent out across the planet to aspire to. And many countries now are not interested in so much in that beacon anymore, given our history with other nations, foreign policy-wise, given where we are currently, and they look at alternatives. They look at China, Russia, and people are looking at these places as legitimate alternatives. And so, again, cult of personality, strength of personality. When measures start to get a little chaotic, crime is going up, people look for the strong hand. This has been evident in Latin America for a long time. And now it's here. It's being rooted in the United States, and it's a matter of how we react to it, what we decide to do about it. And the news hole doesn't help either. The fact that newspapers have evaporated, people are getting their information from who knows where. What exactly is news these days that comes across social media? People call it news, but it's not. It's just kind of entertainment or gossip or what have you. And so it's a real challenge. We have a lot of work to do.
I saw a group of gentlemen on Jon Stewart's show a few days ago saying that if Donald Trump wants a a dictatorship, then that's what we should have. That's what he should be allowed. And I'm not enough of a student of world history to answer this, but I'm trying to think if there's ever been a dictatorship where the people were happy. Yeah, this is a great thing.
This is just what we need.
This is just what we need.
I mean, maybe a handful of people.
Those for whom the dictator was working. Yeah, I'm sure there's people who love.
But by choice. It's just it's
an insane thing to choose.
It really is. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Maria. We'll close out with you. How does this struggle for freedom and democracy that you've chronicled elsewhere land on these shores?
These shores. Well, I think my colleagues had answered many of the questions, but I think if I come from a country that had several dictatorships, so I know what it is, and I don't wish that comes here to the United States. And I think it's important that in this project I will speak about eyewitness, the importance of an image or a series of image that will try to, I can't say we can change the world, but I think we can touch the heart of some people. And because I'm seeing that preconceptions are growing, and then they're becoming more stronger and stronger. And I think with photography and the visual world, we can try at least to soften a little those hearts, because people are polarized and they're getting blind, and we have a big mission with Eyewitness, all of us, to try to capture those stories, be it individual, be it the community, both, because we are so rich in our uniqueness, and as the United States, as any country. And I think we have a huge work to do, and try to show our work as a group working all together, and this is an amazing project. Let's hope everything goes fine.
It sounds like you're saying that it's easier, when you say to humanize, it's easier to hate people in bulk, so as an abstract, but when you begin to put faces to those things that you claim to hate, it becomes a lot more difficult. And I guess that's kind of the mission that you all, I guess, are setting yourselves.
Yeah, it's a huge mission. Yeah.
I wish you the best of luck with it. I believe now we're going to go to a video which will offer us samples of visions of hope throughout the world. And thank you all.
Thank you.